But there's always but. It actually involves all of us, single or married, because I'm going to tell you a story. I'll start with this story. I think you heard it before. All my stories are old. I have to get somebody else to talk. When I went to the vineyard in Massachusetts, in the retreat house, 1999, I have this story. It's very, very imprinted in my mind. Of course, I was single then. but then there was, God rest his soul, one of the founders of the church in Boston, Dr. Taha. His son is about to be ordained a priest next week. Dr. Taha was a really a good Christian, but very strong, very sarcastic, very strong. He would not, tolerate things not the way it should be. So it was a day like this. It was actually the 4th of July. That's why I remember the story. And we had a tradition to do a family retreat on the 4th of July. Abu Musa, he got this and said, I think he had in mind that I should be a priest, but he was trying to introduce me to the congregation. He said, let's do a talk, a word to the families. I said, me? Can we talk to the families? Are you kidding me? He said, yes. I said, okay. What do you want me to talk about? I don't know what to talk about. What if somebody asked a question? And they said, no, don't worry, I'll be there. I said, okay, sure. So I was in the back, where the cafeteria is, and there's a kitchen. And I was standing there, and Mina, Joe at that time, who were serving in college. I was serving with him. And Mina was just starting to be in Sunday school teaching his son. So Mina is introducing me to his father and says, this is so-and-so and his father. And then he came back to the kitchen where we were standing and eating. So the only question he asked me, he hadn't asked me any other question. Are you married? I said, no, I'm not married. He shook his head like this. And he left. There's nothing else. No other questions asked. This is the only thing he wanted to know. Then we went to the church like this, and I was sitting, I remember exactly, and then I gave a lecture about grace in marriage. And I think I teased him, big time. I made him not very happy in that talk. So after I finished, I said, ask him if they have any questions. I said, well, this is not what we agreed about. I said, just quietly. You're putting me on the spot. So I asked, anybody has a question? Nobody raised his hands except this one. And who is the one? Dr. Taha. And what was the question he asked? Are you married? And then he didn't comment. He didn't say anything, just like the question and that's it. So he rested his case. When you have a court and the lawyer or the defense or the prosecutor would ask one question and the answer would be the answer. That's it. He would not have to add anything. So, no further questions, Your Honor. I will never forget that. But then I said, yes, I'm not married, but the church is our big family, and I feel all what goes on. It doesn't have to be really in a marital life. But he has a point. I have to tell you the truth. So the gift of singleness is something that you as married people didn't lose. Because in many occasions you have to practice what singles do, but much more. See, this is the point. I want to tell you something about my vision of Christ. Christ lived, this is not a bad way, but in a good way, dual life. What was he during the day? He was a family man. He was with his disciples. He was with the groups, huge number of people. And what happens at night? He's a single by himself in prayer, absorbed in relationship with his Father. So you, as married people and families, you have to have some foundation. No one jumps into married life without first experiencing and perfecting hopefully, their single life. So let's examine that single life, rehearsing it, see what we can benefit from it as married or as singles. And I want you to write questions for me and for each other. Let's grapple with this subject. Is singleness a bad thing? It's a rhetorical question, of course. I wouldn't be a single person if that's bad, if that's my answer. But let's go and grapple with it. Caring for things of the Lord. That is the definition of the New Testament. Where I get this from? St. Paul. The singleness is a gift to care for the things of the Lord. And what does that mean? From the point of view of St. Paul in 1 Corinthians, he has some reality to expose. And this is the reality that he's exposing. But this I say, brother, the time is short. That's how he starts. The reality is, time is short. So that from now on, even those who have wives should be as though they had none. And likewise, those who have husbands, as though they have none. Those who weep, as though they did not weep. Those who rejoice, as though they did not rejoice. Those who buy, as though they did not possess. And those who use this world as not misusing it. For the form of this world is passing away. He's saying, time is short, and the world is passing away, and everything we're doing here is going to be futile if you don't put things first. To have a perspective on things. So the first thing that he starts with is the wives and the husbands. It's sometimes very interesting to see from the perspective of Christ that he puts the selling and the buying and the marrying at the same level. I'm not putting marriage down by any means. Just don't misunderstand me. The Gospel of the New Testament and the letters of St. Paul, they're putting the marrying and the businesses at the same level that can distract people from the first things. Let's move on with this and see what the reality of things is about. Because I tell you why, just from the beginning here, sometimes the business of marrying and raising up children takes over the most important things in life. One of the things that Shamaman said, you've heard of this pious priest from the Russian Orthodox Church he's the one who started the St. Vladimir Seminary. He said this, family becomes God today. The God of today is the family. Becomes so focused on how to raise the children in a proper way, how to educate them, how to give them the best teaching and manners. And then we forget that this family is made to glorify God. God is the focus. Family is with me in this road. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. St. Paul priority list now, he sets it up right. So he says, this is not the priority list. This is the secondary list. What is the priority list? But I want you to be, this is the most important key word, without care. This is the hardest, most difficult word in this sentence, in this phrase. He who is unmarried cares for the things of the Lord, how he may please the Lord. But he who is married cares about the things of the world, how he may please his wife. Is that bad or wrong? No, it's not wrong. But it might not be the best. There is a difference between a wife and a virgin. The unmarried woman cares about the things of the Lord, that she may be holy both in body and spirit. But she who is married cares about the things of the world, how she may please her husband. And this I say for your own profit, not that I may put a leash on you, but for what is proper, and that you may serve the Lord without distraction. Here's something for you when I was in medicine, so you don't misunderstand this part. When I was in medicine, my biggest struggle was, how can I put medicine in a place that it serves Christ? And it's getting a little bit more tricky and difficult. In whatever job you do, whatever function you do, the whole struggle is to bring what you're doing to be in line with the most important thing in life, which is serving Christ. Once you have a disconnect between what you're doing and serving Christ, you're going to have a dilemma. You're going to have a problem. You're going to have a dichotomy. your life is going to be in 2 pieces, and you're going to feel it. The whole thing is how to bring your life as a husband, as a wife, as a single person who works in the world, to be without care, in service of Christ. That's the whole thing. Serve the Lord without distraction. So all our planning, St. Paul is putting into perspective, as a single, as a married, that I have to reorient everything. I have to bring, this is the most difficult task. I'm not saying this is an easy one. It's really tough. And the more you see the details, the more it needs an effort to bring it to that subjection. Okay, so maybe it seems very difficult. Let's go into objections now, and I think this would break it down a little bit. So the priority list, he says 2 points. Free of care, I want it to be, remember, without care. That is the highlight, without care. Free of care, serving Christ. How can you do this? How can any one of us do this? That's our task. This is our job. As a married father, mother, single child, any one of us have to have these 2 elements. You cannot serve Christ when you are in bondage. Give me an example from the Old Testament. Be with me. There was a people that needed to serve God, but before they served God, they had to be freed, right? They couldn't serve God as slaves. If they are slaves, they could never serve God. They had to be brought out, freed, and then they would serve God as free. God will never enjoy a service of a slave. This is not the God that we know. God wants us free, and freedom gives us a lot of joy. Why? Because God is true. He wants a service from the heart. Service that comes from the bottom of your heart. The service will come from all your being. That makes you sing and joy, and makes you excited, alive. But not the service of a slave that other religions might have. Jewish had a slave worship. Muslims have a slave worship. But Christian, never. God will never ask for that. It has to be from the bottom of our heart. Then I have to be free. Free of care and anxiety. If you come to church because you are beaten up or you're afraid, you're not doing anybody a service. That nobody, no one, small or old. That's why I insist, don't scare your kids. Anytime the children feels they have a burden, you have to entice them, you have to encourage them, you have to do any kind of things for them to do it, but not fear. Anything but fear. Don't turn them into a slave. Now, I would have a little bit of fear, but I'm talking about this for bringing up children. A little bit of fear with the children would be healthy, but in a certain healthy context, not in this one. So why am I not free? Okay, let's break it down. To have no care. These are certain objections that a single person would have, and might apply also to married people, but mostly single. So the single would always say, I desire so much to be in a relationship, so much that I cannot think of anything else. It's gripping me. I'm overwhelmed by this need, this vacuum. I long so much to be with someone that I can't think of freedom. Freedom is so far for me. The other one would say, I have other issues that occupies my heart and mind. I'm not ready to serve Christ. What kind of issues? I have sinned. The lust is taken over. I'm so much in lust, I don't think I can have the face and the guts to serve Christ. I have a lot of financial problems. I got a lot of debts piled up from my school. I have financial obligations. I'm so worried about my career that it consumes me, etc. These are all other issues. So you either have a problem that they are burning up for a relationship, or they have other issues. What else? I don't think my friends will approve of me serving Christ. Yes, I don't really have burning desire for a relationship. I don't have other issues. But I think my surroundings, my family and friends will look down on me if I am dedicated to God. I have to lose them. They're a fun group, you know. They go out and drink, they go out and have parties, they talk about girls, they talk about boys, they watch bad movies. Whatever I do is it's gonna conflict with that. I'm gonna be lonely. I hate it. Don't want to be lonely. You know, I don't have a relationship, don't turn me into a hermit. Right? Okay, I'm okay with that relationship, but don't turn me into a hermit. What else? I cannot serve Christ because I feel so lonely. Again, it burns me up, that lonely feeling. I don't feel lonely, but I do not know what to do. So let's go back and just summarize what I said. These are all about freedom. I'm not free. I'm tied up with my need. I'm tied up with other issues. I'm tied up by my circumstances, friends, and family. But also, I'm free, but not able to serve. Why? I feel so lonely. How can I serve when I need people around me? And I can't get in touch with Christ. Somehow we're not connecting. I don't feel lonely, that's not the case, but I don't know what to do. How can I serve Christ? Remember what we said? Who is not married cares for the Lord, how to serve the Lord. But he is not married or she is not married, and they are not lonely, but they don't know what to do. I know what to do, but I feel that I will not be successful. I really know what to do. I have a feeling that this is my gift, and if I give it to the service of Christ, but I don't believe this will be successful. I will not reach goals. It will be the same. Without me or with me, it's the same. I'm planning on doing things for Christ, but I'm still young. I'll wait until I'm 40, so people respect me and then appreciate me and understand what I'm saying, and I have a voice in the church. I know what to do, but I get pushed away whenever I do what I think God is calling me to do. Abuna doesn't appreciate what I have. He's always kind of stopping people, and he's not allowing me to do things. Or the Amin al-Khidna, or the whoever is responsible, he's not allowing me to do things. So let's answer those. Let's go back one at a time. When somebody says, I feel so lonely, well, how do you answer that? A single person says, I feel so lonely, it grips me. They need to get over it. Yes, the more they get involved in service, this loneliness will go down. But mostly, you know what the source of loneliness come from? And this was my biggest meditation in the beginning of my priesthood. Mostly, single people feel lonely because they are in a group of married people. And that constant comparison is making them feel, highlighting their loneliness. Where did I get this from? Story of Adam. When God wanted him to have a wife, God said it's not good for Adam to be alone. But when he wanted him to get a wife, what did God do? No, he didn't put him to sleep yet. He put him to sleep when he felt lonely. When he felt lonely, Adam was to sleep. That's the best thing he can do, go to sleep. Yes, so he told him, go name the animals. So when he named the animals, what did happen? He felt lonely. So this comparison, Adam, it's written this way, but as for Adam, there was not found a help comparable to him. He felt it. It highlighted his loneliness, but he didn't feel it before. A single person in a group of married people is usually miserable. If they are aware of it, they can actually work on it. But if they're not aware of it, it's wrong.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, I look back to my single life. That, I think, is the single most thing that is an obstacle to living in the world alone. It's very difficult.
It is difficult.
Because of what you said, exactly what you said, because you don't, you're always with people who are not single. Yeah, I mean, and you're not surrounded by conditions that encourage the single life in the world.
Absolutely.
And you don't feel you have a sense of community. And you can serve all day in church, but when you come home, yeah, I mean, this loneliness pulls you. And I think you have to serve in the world as a single person, You have to be at a very high spiritual level to overcome that. أنا ما أعرفش, I mean, so.
It has to be.
But I look back at my single life, and this was a big, big obstacle.
Absolutely, absolutely. Keep it. The comparison that the person does subconsciously with the rest of the world, it makes it from the media to the movies to the internet to your own group from the church. It seems like it's an ocean of couples. How can you survive that? That is why in those in the church, they made communities of singles, which are monks and nuns, and even lay serving singles. And it's important that we have them in the church group. My suggestion is the group of singles should have a group they can belong to that will support them. At least a couple of friends that they can support. And I personally fall back on my spiritual guides who are singles. And my spiritual guides are monks. So they are singles. And I'm always in touch with them. This is extremely important. We cannot, as humans, be superhumans. So a single person in the world needs to stop the comparison and have a community of support, no matter where they are or what they do. The next one, I don't know what to do. And this has a verse, actually, to answer it. Do you know what verse? I think I didn't write it, but what does this say? How we answer this? When somebody says to you, I really don't know what to do. I'm not in the loneliness category. I actually just don't know what to do. How can I serve Christ? It's the Lord who works in you both to will and to do according to his good will. What does that verse say? It's the Lord, it is God it's God who works in you to do both well and do his good will. What does that mean? I don't have that verse here. So what St. Paul is saying, God works in us, in each one of us, to do two things. First, to will, to want, and the second is to do, the power to do. What does that tell me? How can I know the will of God for me? What God wants from me? What does God want from each one of us? Where should I look for it? The will of God for me to serve. Where should I go to ask, what is really God's will for me to serve? Let me just say the verse again. It is God who works in you both to will and to do according to his good will. In prayer? In prayer, but where is the place? Inside of me. What is he saying? He says, when you have a desire to do something in your heart, it is not you who has that desire put inside of you. This applies to all of us, married or unmarried. Whenever you have a desire to serve, that desire is not from you, it's from God. Right? So let's say somebody wants to comfort the people that he sees sad. Somebody wants to teach. Somebody, some people would say, and I've heard it a lot, that teaching is all about, showing off. No, it is not about showing off. It's a gift from God. If we don't acknowledge it's a gift from God, then what we will do is something very horrible, called, what did St. Paul say? When somebody says, this so-and-so likes to teach, he likes to show off, or likes to show off in the church. We do stumbling block, but St. Paul had a specific word for it. Do you know what that is? Quenching the Spirit. The Spirit of God wants to move people to do things in the church, and we are doing what? Nah, this is not good. Somebody wants to do music service. Somebody wants to do taraneem, songs, alhan, prayer meetings, whatever. When I put it down just on any pretense, you're actually doing what? You're opposing not the person, you're opposing... Because you know what happens when somebody's showing off? What would happen usually in the church? What would happen? Gamaliel knew it. Gamaliel said it. It's really clear. He said it's from God, it is from God what will happen? It's not, nobody's going to stand against it. This person who are you fighting with now, he's going to go and have it done somewhere else. He's going to start his own Bible study. He's going to start his own song team. But if it is not from God, what will happen? It's going to dwindle and die by itself. Don't stand against anybody who wants to serve in the church, because it is not him, it is God. And I don't want to stand against God in service. Any one of us wants to do something in the church, especially singles. If this is your talent, please come forward and be active. You're welcome. And I would say to myself as a priest, I want to say to any priest, don't stop people. Don't put them down. You might be actually putting down the Spirit, the Holy Spirit, the work of God in a person. So it's God who, again, works in you both to will, this is important, will, to want, and to do. This is important. So I don't know what to do. What if you don't really think and pray and don't have anything to do? What would I say? What would you do if somebody says, I've worked about it, I've thought about it, I've prayed about it, and I've found no answer? What should I do? This would be the answer. So you ought to have deposited my money with the bankers. And at my coming, I would have received back my own with interest. So take the talent from him and give it to him who has 10 talents. There is nobody without a talent. In the story of the talents, even the one that had one, he had one. Nobody had no talents. So who are the bankers? The bankers are the tellers. What do I give the tellers? And what do they give me? And who are they? Bankers are usually the people who do business. They take the money of the people who has money to save, they run business, and they collect interest, and they give it back. Because the people say, my money, if it sits around, it will be useless. But if I give it to somebody who uses it, then it will be profitable, it will give some profit back. So who are these people who have businesses for God running? And they're doing all kinds of businesses. Which would be the church servants, including the servants, the abuna. So what I would do, I go to the servants and say to them, here I am, I don't know what I need to do, I have some time, I have some energy, use me. So a single person who has not found their gift, they need to give themselves to the service. And they use. What happens as they are used? What would happen? Slowly, they will find out, they will discover their talent, real talents. So this is an important verse that Jesus is talking to us about. The bankers here in this verse are the church servants who are already established and have years and years of service. They know how to work with the money. They know how to work with talents. This is important. So if to answer, I feel so lonely, stop the comparison, be in a group of singles that love God. I do not know what to do. If you really look inside of you, you will find it, but if you can't find it, give yourself to the bankers. What other objections? I will not be successful. How do you answer this one? Somebody says to himself, I know, I'm never successful in anything. I know I'm going to start this service, this Bible study, this song team, this whatever, but it's not going to work. I'm a bad luck to everybody. How would you answer this one?
It's God that works.
It is God who works, but also, Paul said this to Timothy. What did he say to him? For God has not given us a spirit of fear. And the translation actually is failure. God never gives a spirit of failure, like I will fail, I will fail, I will fail. Where is that spirit coming from? It's the devil, of course. But of power and love and of a sound mind. Here is something I want to stop at for us all, like married and unmarried. When you find yourself listening to negative thinking, negative thoughts, you have to stop it right there. I'm just going to going in steps. This is one of the fights that the devil goes against us, because the devil wants us eventually to sin and to die. So what would happen if I get discouraged about something I need to do? What would happen when you have discouragement settling in? You have ideas like this. You're a failure. You're always a failure. You will never be successful at anything. What would happen? You will stop whatever you're doing, which is for the pleasure. I need to get that verse, I'm going to give it to you. It's actually for the pleasure. God works in us doing good things for pleasure. Whose pleasure? Whose pleasure when we do things for God? And ours. Remember we said we're not slaves. When God wants us to do something, it ends up by being happy, joyful. Then it's God's work. But if we end up being depressed and discouraged, what would happen? I would lose the pleasure of working for God, and I would have depression. Once I have depression, what happens? I'm an easy target for sin. The devil becomes like a crow or a raven. You know, ravens come at dead. You have to kill the roadkill have to be killed first, then the ravens come.
Oh, yes.
Yes, it's a feast. The raven will not come on a live animal. Exactly, we'll wait until it dies. So once the devil makes sure that we get despair and we get sadness, it becomes an easy prey. Then we are ready for sin. When we feel like we're discouraged, disappointed, we're never going to make it. So once you have this spirit of fear, I'm afraid this is not going to work, then, and it's setting in, and you're not fighting it, then I know that we're ready for sin. But this is the opposite. Power, love, and the sound mind. What does the sound mind mean? So when somebody says to himself, I will never be successful, that's the objection to serving the Lord. Why am I putting these objections again? So refresh your memory. Because we said an unmarried person thinks for what is the Lord's, so he serves to please the Lord. But one of the objections to serving the Lord and pleasing the Lord is, I will never be successful. So how do you confront that? One of the things I say to myself always, realize when the negative talk is coming. This is not from God. Do you believe that Christ would come to you and say to you, you're a failure, don't even try? Can you imagine that? That's awful. I don't think Christ would do it at all. He is the one who said, whoever gives a cup of cold water to someone, he will not be forgotten. Do you think he would put me down for anything I'm doing? What if I'm doing it to show off? Okay, I have some pride in myself. I'm really full of myself. What would Christ do? What do you think? He would let me do it and do what? And teach me to be even better. This is what he did with Solomon. He said to David, your son, I will teach him and discipline him so he can be a better king. He never said when he's doing some mistakes, I will bring him down, he's never going to be a king again. God is not about breaking us. He's about building us. It is us who thinks very little of him. Very little of God. So even if you're showing off, even if there's some pride, what would God do with you? He would put you down and say, you cannot work for me? No. What would he say? Continue and I will fix you. Just continue what you do. You're fine. Because I'm going to keep with the good and do what with the bad. As a vine, he said, the vine dresser would do what? With trim. He would keep trimming. You will have some hard times. But it's never going to put you down and say, I don't like what you're doing. He will never do that. So when you have power, love, and sound mind, you're with God. You have a spirit of fear, the devil is coming in. Sometimes, just to go a little further from this one, the devil will give you a situation to prove to you that you're not good. He will put you in a situation, so he sees that you have overcome the thoughts. You're not thinking fear. You're not thinking failure. You're okay. Then what? He will have somebody tell you that. He will come with somebody that you respect and tell you, what do you think of yourself are doing? Or he would have a situation that you would really fail in to make sure that you get the point, you're a failure. Again, this is not God. That's not the Spirit of God. I am too young. That's Jeremiah, right? Too young. I'm still a boy. I'm just a boy. Timothy said that to Paul, actually. I think he said that to him. And Paul answered back and he said, let no one despise your youth, but be an example to the believers in word, in conduct, in love, in spirit, in faith, in purity, in 1 Timothy. He said, not just, it is really exciting, not just let no one despise you, but he said, you're going to be an example. It is the opposite. It's upside down. Not just be okay, be content because you're a bishop, I made you a bishop at a young age. No. He said, you ought to be the one to look at. You will be the example that they look at you. So this is not an excuse. So if you have any questions, should I say repeat this in Arabic quickly? So we should be? Okay. All right. So do you have any questions for me? So a single person in the church has a place. A single person in the church have struggles. And a single person in the church is basically us, all of us. When we don't have the full support, some people who are married people, I hear from them, sometimes in the life, moments in the life come when they feel single. We're not always at that deep level of connection. How do you deal with that? How do you deal with that? One of the things I think we need to do is, and I didn't touch it, this is like given, about our life of prayer. Remember how Jesus said it? You're always going to leave me and go to your own and leave me alone. And then what did he say? But I am not alone. One of the greatest things ever happened in history. See, before the New Testament, you don't hear about too many singles. Do you know how many singles in the Old Testament that you know of? Give me 3, and I'll be happy. Elijah. Elisha was single. Isaiah, no. He had sons in the book. Yashub, and Moses was married. Joshua was married. He's about for me and my household. Daniel was not married. Okay? Who else? You're having a hard time. You see, that's what the exercise is like. And the last of them is John the Baptist. You know, these are the 4. So, how come that we come to the New Testament and you have John and Paul, Jesus, St. Mary, and a flood of singles after that? Today you have millions and millions of monks and nuns and consecrated people who doesn't care for men. What happened? I think the coming of Christ in the flesh and the example of single man was because remember at the beginning when God said it is not good for man to be alone. He's been saying it's good, good, very good, right? Everything is good, good, very good. The only thing that's not good, the only thing that's not good in the book of Genesis was the singleness of man. But when he sent his son, he sent him as a single man. Then this reversed the process. There will be an equality now. Why? Because the connection of God with humans became so strong that satisfies the hunger, the deep hunger of nature of human beings. So at this New Testament level, we're all called to be satisfied by God, plus minus marriage. Does that make sense? Like your biggest meal now is not the relationship with your spouse. The biggest meal is the relationship with, that's what St. Paul said in the first verse we had, right? It said, from now on, the time is short, that those who have wives, like those who doesn't. It means that your biggest satisfaction should be, then I ought to live this. Then anything that comes against this is a temptation. It is not the norm. That's why when I say to people who a husband and wife fights together and not very happy with each other, I say, there's something big missing. Where's your relationship with God? Where's your satisfaction, your deep satisfaction? There's something we miss big time. And based on this, I say to all singles and married, find what it means to have a prayer life. Find what it means to have a really, really deep, quenching, satisfying prayer life. And then everything else will be okay. You can take any. You can take any with a prayer life that deep. Otherwise, what would you say St. Paul and St. John did? Okay, I'm open for questions or discussions if you have any comments or questions. Tonight we have the life of Teresa of Calcutta as a single woman serving God alone, single-handedness. When I lend us the movie. And it's a nice movie. I think I saw that one. Okay, let's say our Father. Name the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Because we're the Lord, say thank you, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation,